Hello. Can
Hi, Mark.
you hear me all right?
Yeah, nice to see you.
Excellent. Good to see you too.
Yeah, and I understand you are a very probably much needed vacation, so very exciting for you. So that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. There's Michelle and Jason. Hola, amigos. Yes, we are being spoiled with a week of nice weather here. So
Awesome.
yeah, won't complain. Is uh is the audio I tried to I'm finding a quiet location in a place like this is not busy, but is the background noise all right?
Yep.
You good? Okay, cool. The bar is quieter than the cafe at this time of day.
We're
That
certainly,
changes.
we're certainly not wearing our bathing suits here in Moncton, New
No,
Brunswick.
I know we checked the weather today. I know. Uh, awesome, friends. Well, glad to see you all. Today for my portion, I wanted to talk to you about um some referral ideas for you, whether because they're helpful no matter kind of where you are in the business. I'm a huge believer, as you know, in outbound marketing, and um, we have a whole system for how we do that. And as I've already shared with you, I'm happy to share any and all aspects of that with you. Having said that, referrals are still, from a conversion perspective, from an effort to reward perspective, from an ROI perspective, still the most effective thing we do. And I mean, that presupposes that you're doing good work, but I know all of you will do that. So that's, you know, when people say, oh, referrals don't work, I was like, well, maybe it's because you're not doing good work, but probably it's because you're not proactively, systematically asking for them and doing it in the right way. I will be the first to admit that for years I missed out on God knows how much money because I just wasn't doing it. I wasn't asking for people to help me build my business, which is silly. Uh, so some simple but powerful things that you can do. Number one, every single event you do, whether it's free or not, whether there's 3 people in the room or 500 people in the room, we want to be collecting feedback. And when we collect feedback, we also want to be collecting names and email addresses, even phone numbers. Now, different ways of doing that. If you're doing smaller groups and or you're trying to keep overhead low, you can definitely do that kind of old school manually with a piece of paper, right? So really simple feedback form. I used to do like a half of an 8 by 10, 8.5 by 11, whatever that standard piece of paper is. So I could do 2 per page, cut them in half, save the planet a little bit, and save on printing costs. And you're really just looking for a couple of key pieces of information, right? You want contact info, obviously. You want, some people like to do the like 5-star rating system or the Jose in here. Yeah, some people like to do the 1 to 5 stars or the strongly disagree to strongly agree scales and ask them questions. You want to do that, great. I have struggled to figure out a meaningful way to use that data or to use that feedback to do anything with it other than, hopefully make my ego feel because I got a bunch of 5-star reviews. So what we do, we actually have one of those in our feedback only because the software that I use builds it in and we can't take them out. So we use it. But what's more important is the specific questions that you ask that they have to, that you want them to answer. And so the first one is, what is something you learned today that you're going to use? Right? Or you can either make this a second add-on question, or you can make this the question and rephrase it. How will you and or your business, depending on the context of what we're speaking about, be different as a result of what you heard today? Because what we're trying to get at here is the tangible benefit of what you've done, right? We're trying to avoid we're trying to get beyond the Nelson was great, Michelle was fun, Jason was entertaining or informative, or like the standard. Because if you don't ask the right questions, that's what you're going to get. Your feedback forms are going to be full of, it was good, which is nice, but pretty useless from a marketing perspective later, right? But if you can get specifics, oh, I'm going to take that one sentence that Nelson gave me about this, and I'm going to go do this with it. Okay, now we're talking about some results, right? Now we're talking about something that they're actually going to use. And when you're talking to a person who's going to invest money in you to bring you in, that's what they want to know, right? They want to know can part of the ROI of bringing you in be emotional, be entertainment, be inspiration, be absolutely. I mean, I think that's like half of what I build my business on. But I work really hard on making sure that there's specific things, and I would call it out in a presentation. And you can do variations of, hey, you might want to write this down, things like that, or you might want to take a picture of this slide. And it's amazing, just by seeding those little things in your presentation, people will do that. And then when it comes time to do feedback, they go, oh, right, I just wrote that thing down, so that must mean it's important. So that's probably something I learned. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these like subliminal things you can do. But anyway, the first big question is like, how are people going to use this material? That's a big one. And then the next most important one, you can have others as well if you want. You can have what was most useful to you. The next most important one though is, who do you know who would benefit from what you saw today, or from what Jason did with us today, or from what Michelle did with us today, or what Nelson did with us today, or what Silver did with us today? Who do you know who would benefit from this? And you might even sometimes, I think in our old forum, we used to have a little bracket with some examples, clients, customers, friends, like help people to kind of think about who might, right? Are you a member of another association? Or do you have a supplier that you'd like to, you know what I mean? Sometimes that's enough to jog somebody's memory. And so if you do that, you will be, you will, you should be generating at least a couple of referrals, sometimes many, for every event that you do. Now, will they all turn into gigs? No, but some of them will, right? And the outbound marketing you can do with those leads is much different than than a cold lead, right? Because now I can message John Smith and say, "Hey, John Smith, you know, Margaret saw me at this event last week and recommended to me that I get in touch with you." Right? So now it's a friend telling him, you should talk to this guy. So that's one big one. Feedback. Now, I said you can do it on a piece of paper. There are lots of different ways you can do this with technology. So you could build it. The simplest way that I know of is you could build a really simple Google form with all of the questions in it, and then create a QR code that goes to that Google form, and then just put the QR code on your slide. Right? So now you just say, okay, everybody scan this QR code. It'll take you to a quick survey, fill out the questions, hit submit. Everybody's got a phone in their pocket. Everybody can do that. I use a piece of software called Talkadot. It does something similar. It's just got some more cool functions to it. It creates a cool graphic of the feedback afterwards. And, it syncs with my CRM and does some other things that they've convinced me it's worth paying the monthly fee for. And I do like it, but you could do it all with Google Forms and a QR code. The nice thing about doing it electronically is it saves you entering that data later into something else, right? You can keep it all in one place. Something else I wanted to say about that. I guess, oh yeah, so I guess the two other things. That's kind of how do we get referrals at or after an event? What happens if we're like, okay, well, I'm still getting started on doing a ton of events. How do I use referrals now? And my answer to that is go to your LinkedIn profile and or your Facebook profile and go through your list of contacts and friends and think of, and just literally, I literally will go through every single person and just go, who have I worked with in some capacity? Right? Hopefully, and preferential treatment for those who have worked with me in a capacity similar to or the same as my speaker, right? So, you know, if you've already done some training or you've done some work with them or they've seen you in some other contact, that's preferable. But really, if you already know them, it doesn't really matter. And look, you send a really simple, non-pushy, you know, short message to them saying, like, hey, it's Michelle, remember me? We did this together or whatever. Want to let you know, I'm now doing these keynote speeches. It's about this, this, and this. If you or somebody you know might benefit from this, give me a shout. It's something that innocuous. And again, most people will ignore it or they'll send you a message that says, great, congrats. And you want to hear from them again. But a couple of them will probably be, oh, that's interesting. Let's talk more. Or, oh, I might know somebody or whatever, right? So that can be a really helpful way to kind of get the ball rolling. And then the last thing, and I guess this is also you know, once you've had a presentation, but you can do it retroactively. So you could go back to things you've already done. And this one takes a bit of work and it's a bit of a special approach, but it is highly effective. So you've just done an event for XYZ group. I'm going to use the New Brunswick Nurses Association just because we're mostly New Brunswickers and it's a group I've worked with. So let's say I've just done a presentation with them. And the feedback has been really good. I'll follow up a couple of days later and say, hey, so-and-so who booked me. Here's some of the feedback that we got. Hope you agree with it. You know, looks like the event was a great success. And they'll shoot back a message that's something like, yes, people loved you. It was awesome. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. Listen, would you do me a favor? I build my business. No other marketing I do is as effective as the word of mouth marketing I get from clients like you. So now I'm kind of trying to ingratiate myself and trying to make them feel like they're doing something nice and something special for me by helping me. And people want to feel like they're helping. And then I say, what would be really amazing is that there's no more powerful marketing than colleague to colleague. And so while I can send marketing to your colleagues in the other provincial associations, words from you are going to be way more powerful. Would you be willing to write me a testimonial? Yeah, sure. Now, here's the kind of ninja part. When you ask someone for a testimonial, a lot of the time, with very good intention, they will not do it. Not because they don't want to, because they go to do it and they look at a blank page and they've never written a testimonial in their life and they don't know what to do. So what we have taken to doing is when we write that email and say, would you do this for me? We also say, if it would be helpful, we can provide a couple of draft testimonials for you to work with. They always say, that would be great. Because again, they don't know how to write one. And so we give them 3 options of, guess what? Very positive testimonials that are also highly specific. So that, right, I write them the testimonials that I want to have. So if they're not just, Mark was great, it's a very specific thing. And what kinds of things do you want them to say? You want them to talk about results. You want them to talk about if there are any things that you think hold people back from booking you, you want a testimonial that would counteract that. So, for example, I know that as an inspirational speaker, one of the potential hesitations is that people think it's just all fluff. They think it's just a bunch of like, rah, rah, you can do it. And so I have testimonials that specifically address the fact like, no, there's real content here. And we're going to walk away with some tangible tools. For you, it might be something different. And we put those testimonials in there and then we let them pick. And 90% of the time, they pick one exactly as written. Then they change. Like we put it in there. Take one of these, change it, edit it, do whatever you want with it, throw it all out and start over. Like do whatever you want to do. And 9 times out of 10, because people are busy, they go, yep, that looks good. Put their name under it in the back. And since we started doing that, we get a testimonial every single time. Before we would chase people and chase people. And then it's been 3 weeks and they don't remember. And like, it's just, well, so that's getting the testimonial. Once you got it, then you say, it'd be really amazing if we could send this to all of your colleagues in the other associate, if you're like an association is the example, but if you're in a company, it could be the other departments in the company or the other departments in the government. It'd be really awesome to send this to your colleagues in other provinces and other regions and everywhere, whatever. But I get it. I know you're really busy. Would it be cool with you if we sent them to your colleagues on your behalf? Whenever we've asked, people have said, sure, no problem. And so we will print it like a letter and we will put them in envelopes and we will hand address the envelope and we will put the return address of the person who the testimonial is from, not my return address. And we will send the letters. So person gets the letter and the letter doesn't come from Mark Black marketing. The letter comes from, oh, I know Sharon at the New Brunswick Association of Nurses. Let me open this. And then it's this very glowing letter. Hey, so we just had Mark Black as our keynote speaker at our event. He was awesome. When you're booking your next keynote, I highly recommend it. Something like that. And there was we did this for a campaign with this organization called Future Farmers of America, which I didn't even know existed until I started speaking in the US. And I did the state association. We sent one to every state and we booked 7 of them in the next year. And one of them, the guy literally called and said, we don't know. I have no idea who the heck you are, but so-and-so says you're great. The guy that booked me. And if he thinks you're great, then I'm sure you're great. What's your fee? I was like, that was the easiest booking I've ever had in my life. So proactively seeking, leveraging the feedback that you're getting is the single most powerful marketing thing that you can do that most people just don't do, because it's like that letter thing it's like a 4-step process. Take some work. You got to follow through. You got to, you know what I mean? You got to print 10 provincial or 50 state or whatever it is letters and put stamps on it. Like, it's some work. But if you're charging good money, it's well worth it. So those are my referral tips for you. I'm gonna now hope I haven't yakking for 15 minutes. Let's open the floor to some questions. I'm gonna move this chair so that I can sit with my back against something. I'm getting old.
Mark, just a quick, would any chance that you're okay sharing, for example, the process of that whole email, like, you know, the first email, doing the follow-up, a second email, just to see, you know, just to kind of have a better understanding of how you word it. And of course, we personalize it, but if that would be possible.
Yeah, sure. Let me make a note to myself, Michelle, to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Of
Thank you.
course. Mhm.
Quick question about Talkadot, Mark.
Yeah.
Um, I'm on the light plan, so I tried it. I did a workshop last week on impactful team meetings, and it was really great. The light plan, you know, it's free. It doesn't give you the graph, but it gives you can you can download like the testimonials on like an image, and then I posted those on LinkedIn. Just kind of help promote the next iteration of the workshop.
Yep.
But then I notice if I want to upgrade, it's a year plan. There's no monthly option. So obviously you talk a lot, you speak a lot, so it's beneficial for you. But what's your honest opinion on Talkadot? Like, does Google, like you mentioned, Google Forms, is that good
Yeah.
enough? You know?
I would say, is it good enough? Yeah. It's what Talkadot does is it saves you success, right? So to do what it does without it, you would need to have the Google form, and then you'd have to export that somehow, like copy and paste the feedback, the testimonial you're getting into like a Canva graphic of some kind, right? And then you could create a Canva graphic with it and then post that on social instead. And then you'd take the name and email you got and put that into an Excel spreadsheet. And basically you've got the same thing, right? Like, it's just the Talkadot saves you 4 or 5 steps. Um, yeah, I'd say that's really the only meaningful difference.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because it's $600
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah.
It's not expensive, but it's not cheap either.
It's not cheap. No, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
No, for sure.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Nelson.
What we're both in the CAPS group, and through the years in the CAPS group, everybody's always talking about CRMs. And I've gone through so many CRMs, and then I canceled my last CRM, so I don't have a CRM right now. I'm in the process of kind of, as I've told you before, I'm in the process of kind of getting back to my business. What CRM are you using right now?
We are using Zoho CRM.
Okay, good.
And we paid for a customization called Speaker Flow. So Speaker Flow is a company that basically took the Zoho platform and built kind of like I'm not a tech guy. I'm sure there's a tech term for it. But basically they built like this layer of an interface on top of, so it's powered by Zoho on the back end, but they've customized it specifically for a speaker.
Speakers, okay.
Because I've never used Zoho without it, I can't compare to tell you how helpful that is. Like, we like it. It works well. I don't know if the regular Zoho could work just as well, and or if you could just go in and do the customization yourself. But yeah, that's what we use. And I will tell you, there's some things about it that I don't love. I love the price, and it does what we need to do. That said, the email marketing component of it, for example, is not great. Sending newsletters and things in it is funky to me. But it's and so there are other ones like there's a Go High Level is a popular one right now, like the hot new one. Um, there's Keep KEAP that some people like, and there's HubSpot and a dozen others. The thing I'll say about CRM is it matters far less which one you use as it matters that you use something. So do a Google search for CRMs and some adjectives, whether your priority is inexpensive or your priority is automation or your priority is whatever. And it's going to give you breakdowns. You take a look at 2 or 3 and pick one and play around with it and make sure that the interface isn't crazy complicated. Because what's ultimately the more a CRM is a thing where the more you use it, the more valuable it becomes, right? So if you take it and you just dump all your contacts in there and you don't really use it, you're not going to get a lot of value out of it, right? The more data you can put into it, and the more you can set up automations and triggers and reminders and processes, then it becomes incredibly valuable. So now our CRM is starting to be a very valuable tool because it's doing things like sending us a reminder that last year at this time you spoke to this contact person who said, we're not going to book you this year, but we're interested in you next year. Make sure you send them an email to that. Well, like Excel spreadsheet's not going to do that. Now, Excel spreadsheet with a calendar reminder could do that. But again, it's just extra steps and you've got to do the extra stuff. What else about the CRM that we really like? You can, depending on the CRM, they all have automations built in. So for example, we have a process in there where once we move an opportunity, it's called in our CRM, they'll call them different things, into a confirmed engagement. So we've gone from, hey, we're interested in you two. Yep, we want to book. And we move that over. We have it set to do certain things automatically. It'll create a contract and send it to them. It will create an invoice automatically and send it to them. It will set a series of reminders to do things like set the pre-event call and send the introduction. It's all these, right? And so, but again, most CRMs will do that. It's a matter of digging into them and or hiring someone on Fiverr or Upwork to do it for you. But you gotta, to get the value out of a CRM, you want to use all of the functionality. And what most people do is use it as a glorified spreadsheet.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
What's your cost, Mark? What's your cost for your CRM monthly?
Zoho is, I think Zoho CRM on its own is $40 a month. We have Zoho One, it's called, which is a whole suite. Zoho is a bit like Google, like it's got a whole suite of softwares. And so for the sake of having access to everything, we pay the full thing, which I think is like 80 or 90 a month. And so, for example, it gives you like there's an accounting tool in it. There's a social media tool in it. There's literally dozens and dozens of dozens. Many of them we don't use. Trying to think of the ones we use. There's a website traffic one. So you embed a little piece of code in your website, and then I can go into this Zoho module and it'll show me how many people have been on the website that day, and it'll show me where they're from. Again, things that you can do with different tools. But anyway, so Zoho One is what we use, and it's 80 or 90 bucks a month, I think, something like that. And I'm 99% sure, double check, that it's not American owned. So for some of us, it's becoming something we care about. We had a post in our CAPS group the other day about Canadian companies that do all the things that speakers use, and my comment was, I don't mind supporting the global economy, but I'd rather not support U.S. companies right now. So anyway,
Yeah. If other people have questions on what you've asked, let them ask them. But at some point in time, I'd really like you to kind of, you talked about the LinkedIn, you know, as one of those places to go and send a message and stuff. I'd kind of like to know how to even get my business known better from the perspective of LinkedIn. I'm really a novice.
okay,
Tried a couple different things, so I'd really appreciate any insight, any.
sure. So I mean, I'm certainly not a LinkedIn expert, but I mean, certainly can give you some 101 stuff. So profile obviously first. Um, you have a profile already? Like you have a user and everything. Okay. So set that up. Make sure that it's clear that you're a speaker, coach, trainer, like the titles need to be in your job title, right? Um, your company needs to be the company you work for and your work experience. Um, you can put customer testimonials and feedback in there. So again, if you have those already, then you just go to the person who wrote it and confirm that. Uh, well, I mean, if you have it already, you probably already have the information, and you can upload those yourself into your feedback. I forget what LinkedIn calls it. I think it's reviews, maybe. Um, Populate those. You want to take it a step further, you can do verified reviews, which means you put it in there and you click a button that says verify and put in the person's email address. And then the person will get a notification that says, Nelson is saying you wrote this about him. Please verify. And then click a button to confirm that, yeah, that was me and I said that. And the verified reviews get better social media or not algorithm juice, right? So it'll help your profile be seen more often. Um, and then LinkedIn is like all the other social media platforms where the more you post, the more you get seen. So now that takes time, right? So it is a bit of it's a you know investment of it's a risk reward thing, right? So how much time do I want to pour into this to create content and post versus doing other things that are going to build my business? Everybody's got a different answer for that, but if you dedicated 45 minutes a day and or a half day once a week and schedule, whichever you like, to post something. Like I think minimally posting every day once is a good start. And I'm guilty of not doing it sometimes. Um, and it can be, a variety of things. I mean, LinkedIn is more professional. So it tends to be, post a tool, post an idea, post an article, post a blog post. You probably all have material that you've created already. One of the biggest, I think, misconceptions or mistakes people make is they think that they're recreating new stuff all the time, and you should. But at the same time, if you create like an article and you post it once, you're wasting so much of the juice you could get from that article because the algorithm is going to show that to a fraction of the people who follow you. So post the article, but then like a week later, post it again on a different day. And then a week after that, post it again on a different day. Like the chances of the same person seeing it twice is small. And even if they do, the chance that they remember that they saw it, very small. So like we're all underutilizing the content that we've already created. So that's but yeah, content. Um and then reaching out to people. So proactively going through LinkedIn and looking at connections of connections and proactively reaching out and saying, hey, we know this person in common. Like you can reach out to cold people, say people completely cold, but that's more challenging. But if you reach out to second level connections, so second level connections to people that know somebody in common and say, hey, we both know so and so in common, and you, because of this in your profile, so do a little bit of research. because I see you did this, or because I see you work at this company, or because I thought we should be connected. And then it's it's a long, like, social media for getting actual business is a long-term game, in my opinion. It's not a, because we all get them, right? The connection followed by let me tell you something, and it just doesn't work, right? I'm not going to buy anything from somebody I don't know. But if you try and build a relationship like you would with a person in real life, then it can be very fruitful. But it's going to take time. It's planting seeds in a garden. Sorry, Jason, I just saw your comment. Yeah, I agree. We should all be sharing our. If you haven't already, go and like everybody's LinkedIn profiles. Connect with each other on LinkedIn. It's a great reminder. And if we're not connected, send a connection request, and I will certainly accept it. What else about LinkedIn? I mean, I think those are the big things. Getting those reviews and building your network and building your network with like being intentional about who you're adding. Right. So some people will just go and like, oh, I know this person, this person, this person, and that's fine. You add those people. But who do you want to be connected to? So for example, I speak mostly to associations. I want a bunch of association executive directors. Like that's who I want to be connected to. You might want VP sales of companies, or CEOs or HR managers of companies. Who's going to hire me? These are the people I want to be connected to, and I want to get to know them, and I want to, know what they need, and then that's speaking of which, great things to post on LinkedIn and on other social media are meaningful questions because people love to give their opinion, right? And so that you want to get a bunch of comments on posts, next questions. What do you think about this? What's your best idea for that? You'll get a lot more engagement that way. And again, engagement helps the algorithm show you to more people and build your exposure. Also, commenting on other people's posts relevant to your area of expertise. So follow some people in the same industry as you. Follow your competition if you know who that is. Comment on their stuff, not in a like you suck, right? But like, oh, that's an interesting perspective. Have you thought about this? Or that kind of stuff. That's a good way to get their people to start following you, right? So you can borrow some of their audience. That you don't go in their comment section and be like, hey, follow me. You just post useful stuff and let them figure it out. Is that helpful, Michelle?
Very, very, very much. It kind of raises a couple more questions, but I'll, if Jason, Nelson, or JP have one, I'll let them go first. By the way, Jason, I like your idea of putting our LinkedIn in there.
Yeah.
So I just went on yours, Jason, because you put it in. I'm not sure if we're connected because I don't see, for example, and again, being new, I see how many connections you have. I see message and I see view my services and more, but I don't see connect. Are we connected or not yet?
I don't know. I can check.
Yeah. Because that's another thing too, is that sometimes when I go on LinkedIn, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty tech savvy, but I don't spend time on social media platforms really as much as
Yeah. Yeah, we're connected.
I'm gonna have to. Are we connected?
Okay.
Yeah,
we are. Yeah.
If I'm not connected with someone, I would see then connect. But when we're connected, okay.
Yeah, more
usually, yeah. And if not, you can click, I think it's the more button. And there's a drop down that'll say connect. Sometimes it'll say follow instead of connect, and that's not the same. That lets you follow what they post, but not exchange messages. So then you have to go to the next level. And yeah.
I've been using oh no, sorry. I'm just gonna mention there are also, like, depending on how intense you want LinkedIn, like how intensely you want to build your LinkedIn. There are some tools that do help you do lead generation. What I'm using is Dripify, dripify.io. I can send you a link, and I actually think I have a referral link somewhere there, but I can't think of it. Depending on what you want to do, like how intensely you want to go through this, Dripify and other platforms allow you to kind of like not automate, but use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, where you can actually filter through more specifically the people you're looking for. Like I was saying, like I'm looking for HR people in this area. So Sales Navigator is a paid version of LinkedIn, where you can actually filter out very specifically people in certain areas with certain levels of experience, in companies of this many employees. You can get pretty granular on who to search for. But again, and I can gladly send you some info on it. But you can go real like you can really go deep down the rabbit hole with LinkedIn. That is definitely a possibility.
So
Yeah.
is becoming a premium member something that is of value? Because I mean, I know there's a cost to it. Again, there's cost to everything, you know. But are you premium members? I guess would be a
I have had Sales Navigator in the past and didn't use it enough, and so I canceled it. But I, I wouldn't necessarily say that the Sales Navigator isn't useful. It's a question of you only have you only have so many hours in the day, and so much like the CRM question earlier, do you use it or not? If you're not going to use it, no tool is useful. And if you do, then probably you can get value out of it. So that's a way to dance around the answer, I know, but that's what I would say.
So, Mark, you're not a Sales Navigator user now. You don't have a membership for it. Okay. Because
Nope.
I went through a phase where I had it. To your point, I wasn't using it. And then about 4 or 5 months ago, I ended up getting it, and I am finding it's expensive. I'm finding it's a little bit expensive per month. And I find I'm not using it the way Jason mentioned. Jason, are you a Sales Navigator?
Yeah, yeah.
You
Like
are.
to use those third-party lead generation platforms, you need Sales Navigator. Otherwise, there's no API, like there's no integration possible. Yeah, but would I have Sales Navigator if I wasn't using Dripify? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I'd be on the fence on that one.
Like, I mean, look, it depends a lot on where you are in your business, how busy you are as well. Like, because you have to be careful with this strategy, or this way of thinking. It doesn't work. You just can't do it for everything. It doesn't. It falls apart. But I always think about if this idea that this new software, this whatever, books me one thing in the next year, it's like, ah, right, and my fees $7,500, $10,000. Okay, well, how many years of Sales Navigator did I just pay for? Right. And so I'll do that with stuff all the time. I don't think about it in terms of what's the monthly cost. I think if I can get 1 gig, what's that worth? Now, then you have to track and go, okay, did I actually get a gig by using that or not? Right. You can see how there's a slippery slope there. But that's how I measure many of the overhead costs of things. I'm like, if I can trace this directly to making money, then it's an easy justification of the expense.
The other thing that Sales Navigator does is it allows you to put a live button on your LinkedIn profile. And that actually was one of the main reasons, because I actually just relaunched a website. I just did my website about 4 or 5 months ago, finally. And it's very, very simple. And I like the fact that on my LinkedIn profile, you can click, visit my website, go straight there. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to keep it for now. But to Jason's point, I'm not digging and I'm not using it to the level Sales Navigator should be used. So yeah.
The temptation for most of us, and I think it's just the nature of being the kind of people who become entrepreneurs, is we like new and we like ideas. And so we see a new piece of software, we see a new tool, and we go, oh, I gotta do that. Oh, and then we see another one, oh, I gotta do that too. Oh, wait, and I also gotta do this. What about social media? And I gotta be sending emails, and I'm supposed to be building content, and I have to write a speech. Oh, and I gotta actually go deliver this other thing. Like, there's a lot going on. And I have always traced success back to focusing on a couple of things and executing them well consistently. As long as I'm doing that, everything works. And as soon as I start to get distracted with 3 new ideas and do a little of this and a little of that and a little of that, guess what? You don't make nearly as much traction. So I would rather you say, if it's LinkedIn, great. I'm going all in on LinkedIn. If it's sending 10 emails every day to different contacts and following up, and that's all I do, great, do that. If it's posting on social media 5 times a day, useful content for my target market, great, do that. Don't try and do all of it. Because until you have a staff, you can't do all of it. The people that you see that are everywhere have a machine doing that. Those of you who are in our part of the world and follow somebody like Dan Martell, for example, he is everywhere. He is not like turn on a social media platform, assuming you're in that ecosphere and you're going to see him. Why? Because he's literally got 12 guys in an office generating content 24/7. That's all they do, right? So yeah, he's going to be everywhere. We're not going to be able to do that, and that's okay. They don't need to. So resist the urge to feel like you have to do all of it. You have to do 1 or 2 things consistently, and do it with the intentionality and remembering, who is this for? Who am I trying to reach? Who am I trying to convince? Right? A lot of social media falls flat, and I'm guilty of this, because we're writing to this ethereal general pool of people, right? Instead of writing to a person. And so I try and remember, like, build your composite client, right? Your ideal customer avatar, they'll call it in marketing. What's the person who represents the the, the majority of the people you work with? Is it, I use an example, I work a lot in healthcare and in associations. So the typical person who's hiring me is a volunteer committee member of a nurses association. She's 45 years old. She's got 2 kids, been working in the industry for 15 years. Right. And so I gotta be thinking about that person when I'm generating content. Now, other people can read it and benefit from it. That's fine. But I want to be talking to one person, not to, hey, all of you. And becomes instantly more powerful.
That
Mark,
makes total sense.
sorry, go ahead, Michelle.
I was just gonna say that makes, oh, sorry.
Go
I was
ahead, go ahead.
gonna say that makes total sense, because I don't remember who was talking about it and where I heard it in the last year, but it's always chasing the shiny coin. Always chasing that shiny coin, like, oh, I gotta, yeah. So this is really great information. And one of the questions that was coming out from that, and you can answer it after, you can listen, Nelson can talk first, but will be, and this is a big struggle for me, is what does your day and your week schedule look like? Because I find that when I was teaching, I went to work, though we always had some stuff to do at night or on the weekends, occasionally, not always. But there was a schedule. Like, I knew when to get up, I knew when to go, I knew when I had breaks, I knew when I was done, I knew when I could have supper. I just knew it. And ever since I've been hopping onto this entrepreneur, I just sometimes I'm working until late at night, and then there's a morning I don't work at all. Like, how do you navigate? Do you set a schedule? Do you just live and say, hey, I've got a free schedule? What does this really look and feel like when you've got your SHIT together from the perspective of an entrepreneur?
That's a fantastic question. And I will admit that I still struggle. I'm much better than I was, but it's real. And so the short answer is I'm still working on it. The longer answer is, here's some things I do that do work. Build yourself a schedule, right? Decide. Like, that's the thing. You get to decide. So sit down and write yourself an ideal week. Monday to Friday, like I would literally print out a calendar. I've done this. Print out a calendar, like a Monday to Friday calendar. So it's got 1 week blocked out, 8 to 5, or 9 to 6, or 2 to midnight, like whatever you wanted. That's another thing. I'll talk about that in a second. Like print that out, and then go, okay, what are the major tasks? What are the major activities that are going to result in money? Right? Like what's actually going to make me build my business? And hint, it's not a lot of the stuff it's not hanging around my email inbox. It's not, scrolling social media for an hour and a half. It's a few simple things. Reaching out to more people more often. Posting on social media, but posting and then leaving, right? So that might mean using a scheduling tool or something else so that you can create it, schedule it, post it, but not be in there digging around. Creating IP, intellectual property. So creating things like blog posts, articles, content for your speeches, writing a book, those kinds of things. So what are the things that are going to result revenue? And then block on the calendar, when am I going to do those things? In 30 to 60-minute chunks. Okay, every Monday morning from 9 until 10:30, I'm creating content for the week. I'm making it up. I'm making this up, right? So I'm gonna draft a bunch of posts. I'm gonna put them in my draft folder on Facebook or LinkedIn, or even in a Word document. Like, it doesn't matter. And then it's done. It's all ready to go. I'm just gonna go in and post it. Or I'm gonna, every Monday morning, I'm gonna send 10 emails to my contact list. Or yeah. So I have Monday are content days. Friday is finance day. So we do invoicing and tax stuff and anything else we have to do finance wise on Friday. Tuesdays and Thursdays are outbound marketing days, because we found to doing for Thursdays when people tend to open their emails more often. What else? And then also knowing, so that's the other piece of this, is knowing yourself. So one of the things about being an entrepreneur is you get to decide. And so if you're a night owl and you're going to be more productive from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., then don't force yourself to freaking work at 8 o'clock in the morning for an hour and a half. Like, you don't need to, just because that's what the corporate world has been built around. Conversely, if you're a morning person, get up at 6 and work for 3 hours and finish your day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, that's part of being an entrepreneur. You get to do that, right? And you shouldn't, as long as you're working when you're working. That's the thing. If you're working when you're working, then you shouldn't feel bad about being off when you're off. What too many people do is they kind of dabble the whole time, and they end up working 12-hour days and getting 6 hours worth of stuff done. But I'm saying, yeah, what do you spend your time on? What will directly create revenue? From a speaking perspective, that's reaching out to more people, asking for referrals, posting videos. If it's coaching, it's making offers to people. So like I'm only really starting to do this and do it more. Every couple of days on social media, you're going to see me post more about this group, right? Hey, we've got another great session of this group. If you want to join us, here's the link. Something that simple, right? And remember that the sales stat is people need 7 to 10 exposures before they make a buying decision. So you're going to post and nothing's going to happen. You're going to post and nothing's going to happen. But do it enough. And, right, Nelson, you found this from a post, right? Yeah. So, yeah, that's a very long-winded way of saying you get to decide yourself. The challenging thing is not creating the schedule. The challenging thing is then following the schedule you made.
Mark, you know a bit of my history. Pre-COVID, 100% of my business and my work was outside of Atlantic Canada, and it was corporate. My goal right now, Mark, is to do a lot more, is to go back to conferences and associations, because when I knew you back and we were doing Caps Atlantic stuff, I was like you, 100% conferences and associations. I've kind of
Yeah.
dropped that through the years. So if I wanted to start to outreach to conferences and associations in Atlantic Canada, is there a list? Do you think I should just, dive into LinkedIn and find these association directors? If you remember, Caps Ottawa used to have a list that we could buy. What do you do in terms of finding the associations across Canada that you want to work with?
So a couple things. There is a list. Um, Grey House Publishing is the company that does it.
So it's
Uh,
the Ottawa Caps Ottawa list then?
that's the Caps Ottawa list.
Okay.
It's here. It's not that list is not cheap, like $500 a year to license it. Um, so to get around that, I would do things like pay ChatGPT. I want a list of all of the professional associations in such and such an industry in Atlantic Canada. It'll spit them out for you. And then you'll have to go and hunt and peck on Google to find the contact information of the right people. Um, but yeah, if you don't have a list of at least 100 people that are that you think are your ideal client, you're not going to get it right every time. Then that should be job one. If you're asking, like, what should I be spending my time doing? Build that list. Spend a half hour, no, spend an hour or two, a couple times a week, just researching names and email addresses, and create an Excel spreadsheet for your CRM and build that list. And then on another couple of days a week, send emails to those people. Like, it's not sexy or fun, but that is 100% the way we've built our business. So now I have I started with my VA in Canada doing all of that. And then we realized, well, I realized I'm paying her $35 an hour because she's good and she's worth every penny. But I don't need a $35 an hour person to do the hunting and pecking. So we have somebody overseas do the hunting and pecking. They dump us a bunch of leads. We put those in CRM. Some of them are not great. That's okay. And then I let my VA in Canada do the actual outreach part. And so again, as you are able to, you take a percentage of the revenue you're making in your business and invest it back in the business. Right. So one of the big ahas for me, and it took several years in the business to do this, was to realize that I'm running a business. And what I mean by that is typically what entrepreneurs do is they make their money, they pay their expenses, and whatever's left, they put in their bank account, like their personal bank account, right? And pay the bills. And what we should be doing is saying, okay, make my revenue, pay the expenses, and take something profit and put it back into the business. And if things are tight, then maybe that percentage is 1%. Okay, so I made $1,000 on a contract. I put $10 in the account. Okay, so much, right? But the practice of doing that is transformative. First of all, and second of all, now I have money that I can guilt free invest in my business. And then you'll get to a point where you're like, oh, I can hire this VA because I've got $1,500 in this account, and that's what it's for, and that's what I'm gonna. So my highly recommend. This book changed my life. It's called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. I'll misspell his name because it's a bad name. Or a bad name. It's a hard name to spell. But Profit First, you'll find it. I read this book and went, what? And you'll see, if you read it and dig into it, you'll see he basically tells you to set up 5 bank accounts. It sounds, for me at least, the first chapter, I was like, whoa, this sounds like a lot. But as I worked through it, I went, okay, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. Anyway, the essence of it is this. He'll tell you to set up 5 bank accounts. Operating expenses, owner's salary, right? For like what you're gonna pay yourself. Profit, taxes. Oh, and I think the other one is for like charity if you want to do charitable giving. So it's really like 4. The biggest ones there that people don't do are profit and taxes. And so he'll say every time money comes in, and he gives you suggested percentages, but you can tweak them however you want. Every time money comes in, they get divided among these 4 categories. And he says, have 4 different accounts. And he also says, have your tax account in a different bank. I don't see that one, but I understand why he's doing it. And it's not connected to your debit card. And the reason you do that is that when tax time comes, the money is there. So now when every check that comes in, I literally plug the total into my little Excel spreadsheet with a formula that's built in, and it spits out the numbers. Transfer this much into owner's pay, transfer this much into profit, transfer this much into taxes, transfer this much into operating expenses. And I have 4 bank accounts, and I can go in and look. And the coolest thing happened. The first year, it was 6 months or something, we had $1,500 in the profit account. Wasn't a ton, but it was something. Right now, this Mexican vacation is 100% paid by profit from the company, not revenue from the company. Profit. So that's after taxes, after expenses, after I paid myself, what the company made. And when you are able to do that for the first time, even if vacation is to Halifax for a weekend, it feels different. Because it's not your money, it's your business's money that your business made, which is the whole point of a business, is it's supposed to be profitable. That's my rant about money. Yeah, it's 12 o'clock. Any final questions before we jet? It's 12 o'clock here, it's 1 o'clock there, isn't it? 12 o'clock for Jose.
I think for the next meeting, we don't have to talk about it now, but just maybe exploring a little bit more the concept of that virtual assistant, because this is kind of a thing as well. And just because there's the overseas virtual assistant and how to make sure that it's a legit, how to get, and then the Canadian VA. So maybe just explore that if we can a little bit. Yeah.
100%. I have, I've referred my VA in Canada to like, I think we're on 8 CAP members now, 8 different speakers. So I'm happy to share that. She has an agency, so she has the capacity to continue to grow because she has people that work for her. So happy to share that. But yeah, also I can give you some places to look for reputable VAs overseas. It's like anything else. You got to do some experimenting and some investigating to make sure that you get a good person, but you can find really good people for not much money.
Sounds good. So maybe the next time if you can.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, my friends, as usual, I'll post the recording.
I've got 4 pages of notes this time. Thank you so much. And I'll try to put a little update on that MM page.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Meeting you, Nelson. Thank you, Mark.
Yes, we'll see you soon. Thanks, Mark. Enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Yeah.
I will. Thanks. Yeah, good to see you.
Take care.
All right, take care.